They may or may not be relevant.
Is brand awareness. One, if the customer doesn't know you exist, how can they buy from you? So it's
Patric
Hello, everybody. This is Marketing Mondays number 90, the second one of 2024, and I hope everybody's staying warm out there in these sub-freezing temperatures.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been pretty frigid everywhere. I mean, I haven't watched because I'm at work, but the Buffalo Steelers game actually got moved to another it got delayed for 2 days because the weather was so bad. And then I couldn't watch the Kansas City game because it was on Peacock, and I don't have Peacock, so I'm like, it's been crazy.
Yeah.
But
no, it's all those times I keep thinking like, man, I have no interest in playing a football game, much less just like sitting in the stands. That seems like it'd be pretty miserable if it's like -7 like it was in Kansas City, or I just was watching the Steeler game a little bit ago, and it's still, I think it was like 17, which I would take in a heartbeat, but I think
who's
it was
winning, or should I ask?
Buffalo, when I turned it off about 10 minutes ago, was up 14-0. So
good.
There's your live football.
If the Browns can't win, at least the Steelers should lose.
Yeah, there you go. I'm stuck in that boat, but I got the Packers giving everybody or all the Cowboys fans some grief. So
yeah. Thanks, Rob, for the comment. Yeah, it's a Adventure Rigs hat. I like it. The guys over at Adventure Rigs hooked me up with it at SEMA, and I really like it. So
yeah, you're not supposed to make a comment on it. Us within here at the company have all made comments about how we like that hat and need to get some Adventure Rigs gear. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that we wanted to talk about a variety of different stuff. You were talking, you were talking a little bit about some of the things you wanted to cover this week, and I'm pretty excited to talk about it. So why don't we jump right in so we're not cut short on anything?
No, I agree. So like we've mentioned before, we're going to try to do each of these episodes kind of hitting a particular topic. So that way, if somebody does have questions, if we don't kind of cover it in the course of the episode, that you can toss in your comments or your questions, and we'll kind of still be on topic. So hopefully that can help everybody here to try to gain whatever information you're looking for. And so for this episode, I wanted to kind of go back to the basics with everything. And I think it's a core staple of how we do everything else, and that's SEO. And so we've kind of have talked about this in the past, but I think we're at a point where we need to kind of dive in, get people to understand what it is and how it works and how we see it, even if it's not something that we realize what we're looking at. So I guess I wanted to kick off, and I'll ask you, what is SEO and why does it matter?
Okay, real quick, because everybody uses the term SEO a lot. And one of the questions, believe it or not, that I get sometimes from clients when I'm talking to them is, what exactly is SEO? I mean, like, what does it say? It stands for search engine optimization, hence SEO. So in a big blanket term, what basically SEO is talking about is things that you do to your website and or other platforms online, such that when somebody searches for a particular product or service, that your company comes up in the listings and comes up high. I mean, so optimizing your online profiles and your online platforms such that when somebody is searching for the product or service that you offer, that you're going to come up in those search results, hence the word search engine optimization. At its core form, that's what it is. Now, obviously, you could get as granular as we want, and I think we're going to talk a lot about that. But in general, when you talk about SEO, what you're really saying is, what am I doing online and with my online platforms such that when somebody searches for a product or service that I offer, that my company listing is going to come up. That's the core of it right there.
No, that's good. And so what I'm going to do here, I think one of the things that helps a lot of people is visually understanding it. We can sit here and talk about this, but I kind of wanted to bring up a screen, and then we can kind of go through and explain like one, what a keyword is, and if that's something that kind of is relevant. And let me bring this up. So we've got our screen here. And so I typed in window tint near me, and hopefully you can see this. Let me blow it up a little bit more. There we go.
And Ronnie is actually in the Chicago, Illinois area. So if you're wondering why the results are showing Schaumburg, Illinois, and things like that, it's because Ronnie is actually located in Illinois, and Google is picking up on his location to show him results that are relevant to him in that area.
Yep. So I guess the first thing that we can kind of highlight on is the keywords. And so obviously, like window tint might be one of the key phrases that's kind of here. How does this dictate what's shown on this page when we're searching it through Google?
Well, essentially, this is the core of what you're getting down to. Like, and I'll talk a little bit about why keyword optimization is so important, because in our industry, when somebody sits down in front of Google and types something in this case, window tint near me, those are the type of things you want to have optimized on your website and on your platform such that you would come up for this listing. Now, one of the mistakes people make sometimes is they can fully optimize their website, or they can fully optimize their profile for things that not a lot of people are actually typing into Google. So yes, they have SEO done, and yes, they've actually filled out all the appropriate things and done all the appropriate SEO, but they're not getting results. And the reason is because they've actually optimized for keywords that people aren't using. So doing some keyword research is important to understand what you need to optimize your website and like your Google business page and other things for. So in this case, you have window tint, but in our industry, a lot of times, or in the window film industry, which we work a lot with people in there, a lot of people like to use the word window film, residential window film. Great example. A lot of people in the industry utilize that term, and anybody that works in and around the industry understands what residential window film is. The problem is that nobody outside of the industry typically refers to home window tint as residential window film. So here you've got some people these are sponsored ads and things like that. But I really want to make the point of the fact that if you're perfectly optimized for a term that the average person never types into Google, it doesn't do you a lot of good. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So although we've tried the window film industry has tried very hard to get away from the word tint and things like that, the reality is people outside of the industry still do use home window tinting. Would be much more popular than residential window film as far as a search term. Even home window film, people refer to it as home window tint. So again, I see what you're doing, but let's go ahead and talk. So that being said, you really need to do some keyword research to understand what people are actually searching for, not what you think they're searching for, not the language that we might use internally in the industry, but what people are actually typing into Google. And that's what you want to optimize for. Now, as far as these listings go, there's a variety of different things that are happening on this page. First thing you'll notice is the first 3 listings you see all have the little sponsored thing above them. What that means is those listings right there are actually being placed by Google AdWords. So these particular people are running Google AdWords ads in order to show up there. So again, typically the sponsored ads are always going to show up above the organic or the free ads. And what they've done is they've run Google AdWords that are optimized for things like window tint near me and things like that. So they're showing up for those searches. Now, the very next thing you see below those is you see what we refer to internally as the map pack, but actually, this is Google Maps essentially. And scroll up a little bit. So you notice when you bring this up that you see a bunch of red needles and things like that. And then you see a bunch of different people that are listed there. Actually take your cursor over to the side so you can actually see the names. So you see there's even a sponsored one there. Now you can, from within Google business pages, run through AdWords a very specific ad that is specific to the map pack. So Umbra Window Tinting in this situation is running an ad through Google business pages to show up as a sponsored ad at the top of the map pack. So that's a different type of AdWord that you would run. The other listings you see there, I want people to understand this because a lot of people don't. Those are 100% driven by your Google business page. Those have nothing to do with your website. Those are being driven by how you've optimized your Google business page. So you can see how important a Google business page is, because before we've even gotten down to the organic listings for the website, which we'll get to in a second, we're seeing the actual map listings, which are driven by your Google business page. So you can make an argument in 2024 that your Google business page and having that optimized and doing things to optimize that page and make sure you come up is actually as important, if not more important, than your actual website, because of where Google shows the map listings. They show them above the organic listings. So if you're spending a ton of money on SEO and not spending any money on optimizing your Google business page, it really doesn't make sense, because oftentimes the Google business listings are going to show up higher than the listings you're spending all the money on SEO to come up for.
No, I think that's a great point, because whether it's how active that these people are on Google business pages, and it's also reviews, what else kind of goes into what places these people on the map pack on the side? Is there anything specific, or is, like you said, is it just how much information is within the Google business page, or is it how often these people are posting within the confines of the Google business?
There's a handful of things that work into that. Obviously, fully filling out your profile is number one. Making sure you have your services listed, your products listed, have all that done. Have the pictures of your logo, your cover photos. Have a program in place, whether it's with a CRM or another thing. Have a program in place that is designed to cultivate more Google reviews, because Google reviews are a big part of this. People that, it doesn't always make sure you're number one, but if you notice Select Tint there has 52 and Precision has 173, it doesn't always mean but the most reviews are going to come up to the top. If you optimize your page, if you update your page by adding new photos that are done in an optimized way, we've talked in podcasts previously about how you could use programs like GeoImager and other things like that to optimize your pictures. So before you load them into Google Business, fully optimizing those, you can also add updates into Google Business the same way that you would make an update to social media. You can add updates to Google Business, which will show up there. And if you use an optimized image and optimized text and links back to your website, all those things give Google signals of what you do and where you should rank. Google's number one task, people don't understand. Google doesn't want to try to trip you up and make it hard. Google's number one task is that when people are searching for something, they want to give you the best list that fulfills what you're looking for. So the more information you can give to Google so that they can know what you guys do, so that when an appropriate search comes up, they can populate your company to the top of that. That's what Google's trying to do. They're not trying to, trick you or anything like that. They just want to give the actual their customer, which if you want to think about it that way, their customer is the person that's searching on Google. They're trying to make sure they get the best results they can. So they're using what everybody refers to as an algorithm, which it is an algorithm. But that algorithm is designed to help them figure out if somebody searches for this, this is the best list of results we can populate for them. That is essentially what's happening with SEO and why Google places the importance on SEO and Google Business and things like that, because they want to populate the best results for the people that are searching. So here you've got the map pack. Click on one of those though, so we can kind of open it up if you can. And scroll down to see if they've done any updates. You can see pictures that they've had. You can see their average thing. You can see the latest update that they did right here. They've got actually a video that they've updated. It's been done a while back though, but you can see the update section. Now in this update section, you can add pictures, you can add posts, you can do it exactly like you do on Facebook, and you can actually link back to your website there, or you could create a call button or a variety of different things. Here you can see, like, this is, I think, a little bit more current, but you can see the updates that they're making. So when you start talking about what's all involved in getting you to come up good on Google Business, a lot of it is making sure you're taking maximum advantage of what Google gives you to utilize there. Make sure all your information is filled out correctly. Make sure you're cultivating reviews. Make sure you're adding pictures. Make sure you're doing updates. Make sure the pictures and the updates you're doing are using photos that are optimized. It's a combination of all those things, quite frankly.
No, that's great info. I guess the next thing that I was going to kind of ask and mention, when we're kind of looking at this, so obviously there's only a select few that kind of end up here on the top for the Google AdWords, and that's the formula for getting on this is obviously fairly complicated, and trying to make sure that you have, like we mentioned before, correct keywords and all the stuff that goes into it. So I guess dependent on if you were to take your budget out of it, I think if you had unlimited funds, obviously you'd try to get to the top of the page and do a lot of the Google AdWords. But is there an importance value versus the Google AdWords versus kind of honing in on your organic SEO? Obviously, if you don't have a large budget, you want to kind of, for your website, make sure you're kind of optimizing this correctly. Is there any tips that you can give somebody if they're not utilizing Google AdWords to figure out how they can get their ranking up a little bit higher, I guess, versus just kind of throwing the money at it to get it on the top of the page?
Sure. Well, what you're looking at right there, scroll up down a little bit. So you've got the map pack actually up by the map. So after the map pack, you're going to see the first of your organic results. These are what is being driven by the actual SEO on your website. So this doesn't cost you anything but the time and the effort or whatever. If you're doing it yourself, it doesn't cost you anything but your time. Or if you're using a company, this is where the efforts of SEO on your website are going to show up, whether you come up here or not. Now, to answer your question, whether you want to make sure your website is there's proper SEO. That has everything to do with keywords on your pages, meta descriptions, alt tags on your images. There's just a whole lot of things that we could get in the weeds on with regard to SEO that are technical SEO, backlinks to your website, all types of different things like that that play into that. But where organic or free results versus paid results come in is, let's say that you're a newer company and you don't have good organic results, because it does take a little while to populate up those organic results with a new website, things like that. That might be where you should plan to supplement that with AdWords as your website has time to begin working its way up the rankings. You're still showing up at the top of the page, but over time you can make a decision whether you can pull back on AdWords because you're getting really good organic results. However, you could call it cynical, whatever, but you notice as we look at this page where Google's putting the emphasis. Obviously, the organic results, you've got to scroll down to here before you see the first organic result. So by then, you've actually seen 4 paid results, 1 in the map pack and 3 above it, and you've seen the map pack results. So I think SEO is super important, and you ideally want to show up as many times on this page 1, as they call it, as you possibly can. The reality is that if you're brand new or you just are starting doing SEO, you may want to consider running AdWords, just so that you can have some good results until your organic results have a chance to really work. So we talk a lot in the industry about above the fold. And what that means is like when somebody opens up a search result, what is visible before you even start scrolling? And as you can see, almost everything that's visible is actually paid. That's not by mistake. I mean, Google wants to make money, and this is one of the ways Google makes money. So unfortunately, like I said, I think organic results are still very important and you want to do that, but just be aware that the brand new company that came in down the road and properly builds out a Google AdWords account could show up at the very top of this. And I personally don't typically click on sponsored ads. I like to scroll down and see what's coming up in organic, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people click on the map pack results. So I would say you definitely want to pay attention to those two areas before you spend a ton of time and money on SEO, because as you see, you've scrolled down quite a bit before you even get to the first organic result.
Yep. And I guess, so if we were to take AdWords out of the question and let's just talk about SEO. One of the things that kind of popped up was if you do have a website, the speed of the website and how quickly it transitioned to different pages. Can those things affect the SEO? Obviously, if somebody is having trouble on a page, they're probably going to leave quicker. So then you mentioned previously, like the bounce rate might be higher.
Yep.
Are those things going to affect the organic SEO of somebody as far as ranking?
Absolutely. That's where I kind of mentioned a minute ago. There's a lot of different things with regard to technical SEO that go into that. And I mean, that we could have multiple, Marketing Mondays just talking about SEO in detail, but a lot of things play into that, whether you have the pages set up properly with the proper optimization. If your website is set up in such a way that it responds quickly, is it set up in such a way that when people arrive there, they navigate to numerous pages, or do people sometimes get to your website and leave from the same page they arrived at? Google tracks all of that stuff. If they're sending people to your website, let's say that they're listing you towards the top of organic results, but everybody that clicks on your result very often doesn't stay for longer than about 15 seconds, and then they bounce out. They leave from the same page they arrived at. That's all working its way into the equation to where Google's like saying to themselves, this must not be a good result for this search term, because people that go there don't seem to like what they find when they get there. So again, back to Google's number one mission, which is to serve up a list to their customers or the people that are searching with the best lists they can. If they're being given indicators that the people that are going to your website aren't liking what they find, i.e. they're not staying that long or they're leaving from the page they arrived, it's going to be an indication to Google that maybe they should drop your listing down, because people don't seem to like, or it doesn't seem to hit the mark for people that are searching for X when they go to your website. So all those things play into it. Ideally, you want somebody that stays at your website for a period of time, a longer period of time. They navigate to other pages from your homepage. So they navigate to several pages on your website while they're there. Then Google looks at it and they say, that must have been a good result that we served up to that person searching, because they definitely seem like they were engaged in the visit. They searched around, they stayed a while. So then Google actually then begins elevating those websites that have that those things happen, because they think that must be a good result for this particular search term or key phrase, because people seem to be responding to it. So everything that happens on your website, Google is tracking, and it plays into SEO. Now, part of Google's mystery, if you will, of the algorithm is they don't tell us exactly all the things that play into the algorithm and by what percentages, but all of those things work into the algorithm to determine where you're going to show up on this list.
Okay, that makes sense, because user experience was one of the things the AI kicked back to me. One of the ones that it probably goes along with it was the content quality and the relevance. So I think, like you mentioned, at least when I was thinking and asking the question, wasn't sure if Google was kind of scanning the page for speeds, or as I'm going to mention here, like scanning the images for like a higher clear quality images, if that's something that might ding the SEO results. But I think it's more what you were just speaking on, as far as it keeps the customer there. If somebody has bad images and just
bad content,
poor video quality or whatever it might be that's on there, they're probably going to leave. And thus that statistic is kind of gathered by Google. And then like, okay, so it might not, you might have a popular web page that has low quality images or videos, but if people are staying there, then I think Google is probably still going to send them there. I just wasn't sure if the algorithm itself was kind of reading what was going on within the site.
I think to answer your question, that Google does, but user experience, in my opinion, and by that I mean, are people engaged? Are they staying on your website for a while? Are they visiting multiple pages? Things like that. Although, again, Google doesn't give us the roadmap to what all those things are. My suspicion is that is the most important thing to Google. Because, again, if you think back to their number one priority is you're searching for something and we're producing a list of results, and our number one goal is to produce result. The thing that keeps Google relevant is that when people search on Google, they produce results that make sense to the search. If that starts not happening, or if they start elevating results that are garbage quality, all of a sudden Google's relevance the shine of Google starts to wear off. So Google's number one priority is to make sure people continue to use it. And the way that they continue to make sure people use it is by, when people search, producing good results for them. So I think user experience or user indicators that show that there's a good user experience are some of the most important things that are going to help your SEO. Does Google scan your website to determine if your image isn't high quality? I don't know. In today's day and age of AI, they may start doing that. But ultimately, if you had a website that the images weren't awesome, but people were engaged and they were visiting pages, versus a website that the pictures were all dynamite, but people were bouncing out of it in a very short manner, I think the site that has the images that aren't quite as nice is going to perform better in search results, because that's more important to Google than the fact that you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it does. It was more of just a question as we're going through these. I'm definitely, I feel like I'm experienced with a lot of this stuff, but there's plenty of questions, just like the ones that are bouncing in my head right now, as far as you had mentioned, and this might be diving in.
One other thing I'll say too, we talked about content. Google does not like content that they consider thin content. A lot of people sometimes want to create a lot of content on their website, different pages, different blogs, and they don't put a lot of content in there. The problem is when Google let's say Google serves that result up to somebody, and when somebody gets there, it's 3 sentences with no picture or anything like that. That's not going to be a good experience for the person that Google sends there. So when you're thinking about adding a page or adding a blog or whatever, be thinking to yourself, minimum, you should have 300 words, a bare minimum, and ideally more than that, but a bare minimum 300 words. Otherwise, you would have what Google would consider thin content, which means there's not a lot of content there. So you're going to have a hard time getting those pages to register and for Google to populate them high in the search results, because Google is going to feel like if we send somebody there, there's not that much meat on the bone, if you will, on that page. So be considering things like that too. Don't just try to put content out there like, I'm going to set up a page that says window tinting in XYZ city and put 2 sentences, and I got a page out there, and think that that's going to work. I mean, that's actually a decent strategy, and we use that with some of our clients, but there's got to be some meat once you get there. There's got to be content. You just can't create thin content and expect that that's going to work for you.
No, that makes sense, and kind of that's where I was heading as far as the meat of the content. It might be like I was trying to mention, it might be a little too far down the rabbit hole. But the one thing that I'm noticing, and it also brought it up on here, is how important and how are backlinks and inbound and outbound links within, whether it's a post, because I know that's one thing we do a lot with our blogs, but even like you mentioned too, on like a homepage. My worry with a lot of those kind of outbound links is that somebody clicks on it and then it sends them out of the website. And so thus it's kind of like the bounce rate. So how do you kind of incorporate that into to manage the SEO, but still kind of giving that content that the algorithm is essentially is looking for?
Well, when you set up an outbound link on your website, to answer the one question, when you set up an outbound link on your website, whether it's connected to a logo or anything like that, you can set up the link in such a way that it opens the link in a new tab. So that's important that you do that. That you actually, I don't know what the heck just happened, but
somebody was agreeing with you.
Anyway, it's important that you set up the link properly so that when somebody clicks on it, it opens in a new tab, which means they didn't bounce out of your website. Your website is still open on their computer. That's important that you do that for outbound links. As far as inbound links, one of the things, and this is kind of it's kind of hard to, authoritative websites have more benefit to you than just random websites. A lot of people back in the day, one of the ways you get your website to populate really quickly was just building backlinks. And they could be garbage backlinks, but just build as many backlinks as you possibly can. And when Google figured out what was going on, they actually closed that loophole. And that's now considered kind of like, excuse me, I'm going to take a quick drink of water. That's considered a strategy that is not, they kind of frown upon. So, what you want to do with regard to backlinks is try to get backlinks from authoritative websites. That could be if you use a particular manufacturer's window film, getting a backlink up from their dealer locator, industry organizations, places like Window Film Pros, IWFA, that have what's considered authoritative websites that backlink to your website. That actually tells Google, it raises the value of your website, because what Google looks at is if these websites that are authoritative are creating a backlink to your website, it adds credibility to your website, because Google thinks like this website must be credible, or this authoritative website would not be putting a backlink to that website. So quality, in my opinion, with regard to backlinks is more important than quantity. The Better Business Bureau, your local chamber of commerce, things like that. If you're involved in these organizations, make sure that they're giving you a backlink back to your website. Those are all authoritative sources that are backlinking to your website. There's a lot of industry organizations, things like that you could utilize a backlink that are going to help you. But should you hire a company that just goes out there and tries to pile in as many backlinks to your website as possible? I don't know that was a strategy that worked a decade ago. I'm not so sure that's a wise strategy to follow today.
No, that makes sense. Thank you for covering all of that. Well, I do have to say this episode kind of flew by. All of a sudden, we're at 35 minutes.
Well, there's a lot here. I mean, I feel like when you come to talk about SEO, 35 minutes, I feel like we're barely scratching the surface of SEO.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's kind of what we want to conjure up, and we don't want to go too long. I did want to kind of throw this up to you. Was there anything about SEO, the full spectrum, or Google AdWords that you wanted to touch on or feel like is important that people need to know about?
I think the number one thing to think about with regard to whether it's an AdWords strategy, whether it's an SEO strategy, whether it's a content strategy on your website, whether it's an optimization strategy on your Google business page, keyword research would be the number one thing that I would say. If you are perfectly optimized for the wrong words, you are not going to get good performance. What you need to do is spend some time to understand the words that you need to be optimized for. Those are going to be the words you use in your Google AdWords account as keywords or key phrases. Those are going to be the things that you use in SEO as keywords, key phrases. Those are going to be the words you try to optimize with your images on Google Business and the way that you create posts on Google Business. If you don't understand what relevant people might be searching for on Google, you're throwing darts in the dark. You have no idea if you can be perfectly optimized for all the wrong keywords. So what I would say, make sure before you do anything, make sure you're aimed at the right target. Everything we talked about is throwing darts at the target. But if you don't even know what target you're aimed at, or if you're aimed at the wrong target, you can be perfectly executing a strategy that's not going to work because you're aimed at the wrong target. So I would say, and we could get in the weeds on a lot of these subjects, but I would say make sure your keywords are appropriate, or everything else doesn't matter. I mean, if that's not right, doing everything else properly doesn't matter. If that makes sense. I mean, if that piece is wrong, everything else is going to be wrong as a result.
No, I think if you're selling shoes, you obviously don't want to be out there kind of promoting pop or food. Like, it's understanding what you're in. One of the things
many times it's much more subtle than that. Like I said, you go in to a website, and again, everything's optimized to use window tinting because we work with a lot of window tinters. Everything's optimized for residential window film. Well, if nobody ever searches for residential window film, you're going to be like, man, I did everything you guys told me to do. I filled out meta descriptions. I filled out alt tags. I did all this other stuff. Why is my website not getting the traffic? Well, because people are searching for home window tint, not residential window film. Yep. So again, it can be subtle. It doesn't have to be pop or shoes. Not to say that I understand where you were going with that, but you really have to understand what the highly searched terms are, and then optimize from there. You don't set your website up the way you think it should be and then try to optimize it. You find out what people are searching for and optimize your website to that. Yeah. You can't get those two things flipped.
And I wanted to share a website here as far as trying to figure out what those terms are. And so this is Answer the Public. I mentioned this before. So just answerthepublic.com. And I just put in window tint, and it kind of gave me the spectrum of, it kind of has these things: are, can, how around the outside. And like one of these, can window film be repaired? And it's like kind of asking the questions that are populated or are popular within this specific search term. So whether it's are looking for content to create, whether this is something for social media or for a blog post, and you kind of want to hit on one of these questions and kind of break it out from there. So there's lots of different ways to kind of utilize just this one website for keyword research when I know there's a lot of other ones that are out there. This is one I've seen that's been popular on social media, that at least you probably only get like 3 chances before you have to go pro. But you can see here, it kind of gives the cost per click, depending on which one that you're kind of going with on here. So I think this is a good resource to check out if you are kind of looking for ideas of how do I answer questions, or how do I kind of solidify what my keyword research is. Because if it manages to be a couple of these that you want to hit, like why is window tint illegal or whatever it might be, this is a good place to kind of
great place to find, like if you're going to have a frequently asked question area on your website, great place to pull questions from and answer those questions. Now you've got content on your website that's directly tied to questions people are asking on Google. So again, there's a lot of tools out there to do keyword research, but if you just are doing it based on your own knowledge or what you think is right, you're taking a chance. And reality is you might be perfectly executing a plan that's aimed at the wrong target. So to me, get that piece right, and you're going to find that everything you do, AdWords, SEO, everything like that's going to actually perform better if you're aimed at the right target.
Yep, I agree. If there's anything else, I think this is a good spot to kind of wrap up. I did want to mention too, to anybody, if you guys have topics that you want us to cover, whether it's you don't have a specific question, but you kind of want us to kind of do an overview on a particular topic, please let us know. Leave it in the comments or send us an email or a message, and we can definitely put it on the docket and try to take care of those and answer those questions for you.
Absolutely. And again, I know we're well over the 30-minute we try to shoot for, but with regard to SEO, this was just literally a fast flyover. Like a lot of these things we talked about, we could spend a full session just talking about that. So if there's particular questions you have, things like that, let us know, because there's so many different things we can go down, different silos, and really get detailed. But, we'd rather you tell us where you have those questions, so we're not spending time answering things that you already know the answer to. But, we tried to just fit, everything in the kitchen sink with regard to SEO in one session, and it was, a quick flyby. So if you have any particular questions about some of what we said, let us know, and we'll dig a little deeper into that.
And I will say we've at least have talked about doing a specific Google AdWords one, which I think if anybody has the Google AdWords, the template or the dashboard can be a lot and can be overwhelming. So I think being able to kind of break that down, and that's something we will do in the future, should be beneficial to everybody that has questions. And hopefully we can get some feedback as far as what you're kind of having an issue with that we can kind of try to tackle and help kind of go through.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you guys found this helpful, and we appreciate you guys taking the time on a Monday night to watch, especially while there's a wild card playoff game going on.
Yeah, we had people watching, so I had to turn off my my game, but I'll have that back up in a minute.
Cool.
But thank you, everybody. Stay warm. We will see you next week and on a new topic. But until then, you guys take care.
See you later, everybody.